All right, finally, I get to talk about this company. I've been waiting to make this video for several months. This is Kraken Energy, a uranium exploration and development company in the USA. This is right up my alley. And the reason why I haven't spoken about Kraken very much, or if at all, is because I thought that the price was too high at the time. And I have seen the price slide quite a bit from a high of, I don't know, maybe 180, 190 back in April down to only 40 cents now. So bear in mind that we're talking about a company that's sitting at just under $22 million Canadian market cap. And now I can tell you with a lot of confidence that I personally believe that this company is cheap. And I'll tell you why it's cheap in just a second. So it's got kind of all of the ingredients that I like in the USA. I believe there's a shift in the USA happening. People are more pro nuclear and more pro uranium than they have been in the recent past. I believe that's going to flow into the mining sector as well. And that's why I'm putting a lot of money into the USA as an up and coming jurisdiction. It's funny to say up and coming because back in the 50s and 60s, the USA was pretty much dominating the world when it came to, mining of uranium. And now here we are back again with a few different companies, Kraken being one of them. Now, we're going to jump into an interview with Matt Schwab, the CEO. But before we do that, just very quickly, I just want to tell you why I like this company in a nutshell. So, obviously, the price being a steal at these levels, that only makes sense when you look at, yes, the properties, but most importantly, the team behind it. So, and I know it as well, there are many how can I put this nicely? Many people in the mining industry who aren't very successful, and some of them aren't very honest in their dealings. So these guys, they have a name, they have successes, and I believe that the reason why they're doing this is because they want to keep winning. If you want to bet on a good company, bet on the management team. That's what I think. I bet you that's what you think as well. So Garrett Ainsworth was a former VP Exploration and Development at NextGen. You know NextGen if you're in uranium. I don't need to add anything to that. Matthew Schraub, we're going to be speaking to him in a few seconds. He was actually the senior exploration geo at NextGen way back when they found Arrow in 2014. And Troy and Galen McNamara. And Galen is actually CEO of Soma Silver. I wasn't really familiar with Troy previously, but he's also a former NextGen guy. Very, very interesting indeed that they have, operations experience for the board and advisors, not just the geo part of it, because that kind of gives you a hint that they're serious about building this stuff and not just exploring for it. Brownfield exploration. And I'm going to take you to just a very, very quick overview of their projects. Garfield Hills project. Highlight here that they can buy 50% of the NSR with only 250K, which I think is awesome. It's in Nevada, close to really good infrastructure. Grades, amazing for this region. If you're looking for Athabasca Basin grades, this is not it. Okay, the US as a jurisdiction is not it. However, you can actually make money with these grades in the USA, I would assume, especially when they're so close to surface. I have seen recent projects actually produce at 0.05% uranium. So just as a comparison, okay? But I don't want to get too much into it because we are going to talk with Matt himself. So let's jump straight into it with the interview with Matt Schwab from Kraken Energy. All right, everybody. I want to welcome Matthew Schwab from Kraken Energy. Welcome, Matthew. Please let us know what Kraken is actually all about. It is one thing for me to look at the company from the outside and say, look, I think it's interesting because of this, that, and the other. I have my own biases, obviously. What is your side sitting on I guess, the seat of CEO and leader of this company?
Thank you, Fabi. Great to be with you today. Really, Kraken Energy it's an exciting new junior, really focused on identifying the need for advanced production for uranium to meet the energy needs in the upcoming energy cycle. and finding the most realistic way to possibly satisfy that upcoming demand. And the way we're doing that is looking at conventional assets in the US in tier one mining jurisdictions that have amazing infrastructure, have regionally high grades, value added metals on all of our properties, and looking for the easiest way to fast track these to production rather than waiting 10, 15, 20 years and having advanced infrastructure needs. We're looking at the easiest path forward.
Okay, so that brings up all sorts of follow-up questions because you said some very interesting things there. So we know for a fact, and by we I mean uranium investors, that you can find possibly the richest grades you could ever imagine in the Athabasca Basin. We all know that. However, we have many extremely juicy deposits, as I like to call them, still undeveloped, especially to the west of the basin. And they have been sitting there for a long time. And you guys are in a completely different jurisdiction, trying to do something different, and that involves fast tracking to production. That is very interesting to me because a lot of people are looking at this new uranium cycle, and we don't know exactly how long it's going to be, if it's going to be a massive squeeze spike, etc. Uh, but we know there's something happening there, demand wise, for sure. Um, what is your background regarding having dealt with companies that will likely take a very long time to production, and why do you think this is the way to go? I mean, you could be in the Athabasca Basin exploring for high grade. Why aren't you?
Well, for sure. No, that's a good point. And looking back, so I started my career in the Athabasca Basin. I worked for Hathor Exploration, Rio Tinto, NextGen Energy, and was part of multiple discoveries and deposits in the basin that still aren't in production. And that was over 15 years ago for some of these things. And looking back, there are plenty of deposits that are some of the highest grade and largest known deposits in the world in the basin that have waited 10, 15, 20 years or more and are still not producing anything. And that's not to say that they won't. Guaranteed at some point in the future, as demand necessitates, they will be produced. But that doesn't meet the projected 75 million pound deficit that we're going to see in the next couple years going forward. So we need to look at more realistic approaches, and one of the ways to do that is to skip part of the exploration cycle. So one of the things that we've been looking at Kraken is how do we move forward quicker, as I said in my introduction, and we're doing that by looking at assets that are more of a brownfield stage, where they are past producers, they've got a defined resource historically, they have some stage of advanced exploration that was done on the property and identified uranium mineralization, so we can skip that greenfields exploration stage and move forward at a quicker pace. Beyond that, we're looking for assets that are near or at surface that don't have the advanced infrastructure costs of an underground mine or an in situ type style. So both really highlights of what our exploration model is and what we're looking for in our properties going forward.
Very cool, very cool. And are you 100% in the US or just mostly in the US project wise?
All US assets, and that's what we're going to keep it to going forward.
Awesome, very cool. That really interests me from many different perspectives, but mostly the fact that I think there's a shift happening right now in the US towards homegrown energy in all facets of the nuclear cycle. And I think that's going to eventually hit uranium mining as well. Tell me what sort of assets you guys have now, because I know you're not just, playing with one flagship and going all in on one thing. You have a portfolio of different projects. What excites you the most about what you guys have right now?
Right now, we have three properties on the go. We have the Apex Uranium Mine, which was historically the largest producing uranium mine in Nevada. I think it produced about 106,000 pounds of U3O8 back in the 50s. We also have Garfield Hills, which was a past producer, and also our most recent addition, Huber Hills, which was a past producer at 0.24% average production grade as well. All three of our properties are accessible year round. They've got great infrastructure with power lines crossing the properties, with water sources close by. And those are the check marks that we're trying to meet for all of our projects going forward. We want them to have, again, either defined resource historically, whether it's compliant or not, and we can deal with that, or be a past producer with this infrastructure in place. And it really helps drive them together concurrently so we can move forward with multiple exploration projects at the same time, trying to get them to a feasibility stage or better to take advantage of the incentives that are slowly being offered by the US government.
Gotcha. So, um, When you get these projects, are you able to take any sort of historical drilling that has done in the place? I mean, how quickly can you get to feasibility, do you think? Considering that, there are resources, how much do you know about the resources that you have? Do you have to drill it out completely or not?
Well, to become 43-101 compliant, we do have to re-drill all of these historic results that we have. They're more or less a targeting tool. So when we start up drilling on any of these projects, our initial goal of the property or the project on that property is to confirm historic results, then move forward with advanced targeting and build up a resource as we step outwards. So realistically speaking, if everything works in our favor, we could take any of these properties and have them at a defined resource within a couple of years, and then move forward with feasibility following that.
That is super exciting. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. When I first saw Kraken Energy and I saw the people behind it, I was rubbing my hands together thinking, okay, this is going to be really, really cool. And then I looked at the price and it had just IPO'd. I'm not sure if it was an RTO or an IPO, but it had just come to light as Kraken Energy. And then I'm like, a bit too dear for me, but let's wait and see, right? And the let's wait and see has actually really paid off because now you guys are at a price that is really interesting to me. Where is shareholder value going to come from going forward, right? Because you've had a little bit of, um, I guess I'm going to say a little bit, not too much, but a little bit of attention from the market. Not a ton. A lot of people did not know that you guys existed and are now hearing about the story. But there's been the natural sort of some initial investors that are like, okay, let's move into something that's hot in the Athabasca Basin. Let's move into lithium or whatever the hot thing is right now. And so the price has finally reached a point where I think, okay, this is really cheap. But where is, uh, I guess, the value going to come from now until whenever?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of changes have happened in the last I'm going to say 8 to 10 months with Kraken Energy, with change in executive management, and then kind of a shift in the direction of the company. Where when it was first listed, we only had the Apex property, and slowly going forward from that, now that like you said, we're at a far more aggressive entry price, floating between 40 to 50 cents on the market. Where the value is going to come from is as we keep moving forward with project acquisitions and project generation, adding new properties to this portfolio, building them out to actually create a realistic hub and spoke mining model. I'm looking to do that quite aggressively moving forward through this year and bring together more properties that meet the same check marks. And that should really provide that shareholder value that people are looking for.
Very cool. So if everything goes according to plan, um, how long do you think you could realistically be producing? And let's just pretend that everything actually goes according to plan, meaning you are able to finance at a price that's decent. You're able to, do the feasibility
Hmm.
studies. Let's play around with some possibilities here. I know, disclaimer, disclaimer, these are forward-looking statements, and nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. But ideally, in your personal target, what does that future look like?
In a perfect world, based on the fact that we do have historic resources on some of these properties, again, the infrastructure is mostly in place besides the mines themselves. We could potentially fast track some of these to be in production within 5 years.
5 years, that's quite
In,
aggressive.
in a perfect world.
Good. Okay. I'm glad you disclosed that. Very good. Awesome. Is there anything else that investors should know about Kraken that we haven't discussed? I really like what you guys are doing and how you're going about it and the team behind it and everything. But is there anything that we haven't mentioned yet that people should maybe look into? Because at the end of the day, um, currently, uranium investors have a lot of choice, right? When
Yeah.
it comes to investing, you have a ton of companies in the Athabasca Basin, trying to play that neurology. You have a bunch of companies, a lot of them listed in Australia, to be fair, in Africa, and then you have some companies in the US popping up. A few interesting projects, and a lot, maybe too many companies for newcomers to actually keep track of. Why is Kraken different, and what haven't we discussed yet about it?
There's a few things that kind of set us apart and make us a bit more of a niche in the industry. As you said, there's plenty of investment opportunity for people looking to get into a uranium company. We really don't fit the mold of many of them. We are US focused strictly, looking towards domestic uranium production in the continental US. Um, High grade worldwide for our properties. No, we're not competing with the Athabasca Basin, but with an average grade of 0.2% production grade on all of our properties in the past, that really takes us above and beyond grades that you're looking at in Africa or in Kazakhstan, etc. And with those productions dropping off in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, someone has to fill that need. And while Canada has the resources in place, it's still going to be, as we said, 10, 15 more years before any of that's going to be realistically happening. So that sets us apart in the fact that we can fast track these properties. We're going to be adding to our property portfolio as we go forward quite aggressively. And everything is playing in our favor so far. The US wants this, the market needs this, and we have the properties and the assets to actually make it happen.
Very cool. Even my dog in the background agrees with what you said, Matthew. Thank you
Fantastic.
very much. Where can people find out more about Kraken Energy?
You can hit up any of our social media platforms between Twitter, LinkedIn, or Instagram, I think, Facebook. You can also check out our website, and we also trade on the CSE and OTCQB as UUSA and UUSAF.
Awesome. Thank you very much.